Welcome back to Bazaar, I'm Inko, and it's time for a new season. That means it's time for new card packs. Recently, they've been revealed on other YouTubers' channels. I'll have the link to Mr. Fruit's original reveal in the description, and that's where all of my visuals will be coming from for this video, at least for the new cards. Let's do the quick summary here at the start. I think that on the whole, this Vanessa set is probably pay to lose. Ideally, monetization changes, everyone gets access to the set, and no one can turn it off, so that's not a discussion we need to have. However, provided the system stays the same, this is pay to lose. A lot of the cards are very heavily interlocked, rely on each other, are a bit too specific in their synergies, and the cards that are strong, to me, don't seem outlandishly strong. There's no cards like Dive Weights that fill a hole in the class, no cards like Slumbering Primordial that are on their own a win condition, no cards that are like Ice Luge where they're just so strong they really carry the whole set, although Sea Shadow is trying its hardest to do that. On the whole, I'm just not super hyped about this set, and it hasn't grabbed my attention the way previous sets have or the way the new Dooley set does. But it's still an interesting set of cards, and I will try it. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm underestimating it. Anyway, let's get into the specifics. And let's start with Sea Shadow. Sea Shadow is a medium-friend vehicle. I kind of feel awkward about calling a horse a vehicle, but I get where you're coming from. It is a 2-speed initially, and its ability is reduce the cooldown of your other items by 10% for this fight, increase this item's cooldown by 4 seconds for the fight. That means Sea Shadow is going to go off 2 seconds in the fight, give a pretty big immediate impact, but after that it becomes a fairly slow scaler, going off again 6 seconds later, then 10 seconds later, then 14 seconds later, and at that point the fight's over, you're not going off again. Now, because we aren't 100% sure how the cards scale, it's possible that Sea Shadow scales by having its cooldown value go up to 15 and 20% at Diamond, or that the cooldown increase gets less and becomes a better scaler but lower initial payoff. I'd assume it's the former, not the latter, but I don't really know. I personally do not expect Sea Shadow to be very good. I can see where people get hyped about this guy. He is 10% cooldown reduction for your other 8 items, and that means that essentially 2 seconds in the fight, he's going to go up before everything else. So before you even talk about how valuable it is as a scaler, you've gotten this cooldown reduction. And at Diamond, 20% cooldown reduction being twice as good probably is worth the card space. But I look at Sea Shadow, it's like silver and presumably also gold, and I feel like it's kind of not doing that much for the board space. It's also specifically not good with Ammo Vanessa, that's kind of unimportant, but the more I look at Sea Shadow, the more I think that this effect, even though like reducing the cooldown of your other items is fundamentally very powerful, there's a reason this second line of text is a downside. I feel like very frequently cards that give power to other cards need to be kind of insane so that they justify the fact they're not doing anything on their own, like Swashbuckle, as a good example. Whereas stuff like Diving Helmet isn't very useful at all because the aquatic tag simply is not worth the board space. This falls somewhere between them in my eyes. And my big issue with this is with Vanessa, other than aquatic boards, it's very frequently the case that you have several passive items on your board. How strong this is really depends on how good your other items are. The more items you have that actually activate, the better this gets. And if you have like a 1-weapon build, giving up 2 board slots is oftentimes impossible anyway. Like, I just wonder what board has the space for this that also gets a huge impact out of it. I can't imagine it's terrible, but I don't look at this and immediately understand how it's going to be good. I'm willing to just be comically wrong about Sea Shadow. I look at reduce the cooldown of your other items, I understand, like, oh, this might be really broken. But at the same time, I just really do not see how this easily and smoothly fits into builds. And the reason I started off with Sea Shadow is because I'm going to do the packages of cards last. I want to talk about the things that are most self-sufficient, that stand on their own the most. And while Sea Shadow might just be the best card and I'm seriously underrating it, the next card is kind of just trash. The shot glasses are not a good card. They are an 8-second cast, small item that shields for 20, and when you use an ammo item, this gains 5 shield for the fight. Frankly, that's just irrelevant to any ammo game plan. If you're playing Port, a scaling shield item that takes 8 seconds to go off, not really important. If you're playing any sort of aggressive ammo, you don't want this to begin with, right? This is just not part of the ammo game plan. This is just shop dilution. This is a bad item. I don't feel the need to say more about it. Next up, another item that's really standalone in the pack is Captain's Quarters. It is a large aquatic property, 4 speed, and it hastes a vehicle for 2 seconds, charges a tool for 1 second, reloads an ammo item 1 item, and a weapon gains 20 damage for the fight. Now, while it's pretty obvious that Captain's Quarters was designed to work with Flagship, I will note that it has some kind of insane synergy with Crane, considering that Crane is both a vehicle and a tool and a weapon that cares about other large active items, and this is a fast large active item. It's maybe the single best Crane scaler in the game, at least before you start getting like infinite combos with Armadillo or something, right? So Captain's Quarters is designed to essentially fulfill the same purpose as Crow's Nest, and I have a hard time really looking at this and feeling too insane about it. It's obviously good that it's hasting the ship. That can remove the need for stuff like a Shadowed Cloak or a Sextant. It's obviously good that it's buffing the ship. It's a big multicast thing. Reloading your ammo could be helpful, generally not the most important thing. Charging your tools, same thing. I feel like this is analogous to Crow's Nest. I don't think it's going to be that broken. I don't think it's easy to assemble a non-ship board when you care about Captain's Quarters either. And mostly I'm hyped about this card because of the crane interaction, but honestly, just kind of a nothing card for me. It makes it harder to find things that pull is the main way I feel about this. I feel like there are going to be very few runs where I'm looking desperately for Captain's Quarters, although I will acknowledge that if you have a flagship and you're looking for a property, it makes assembling something with the flagship easier. I just typically find that when I'm going into flagship, I find the flagship after the Crow's Nest anyway. Maybe this will make it easier. I like the design of this card though. I don't think this is bad. I don't think this is overpowered. I think this is probably right about where a card should live. Next up we have Calico. Calico is a small friend weapon, 7-second use time, and it deals 10 damage. When you use another weapon, this gains 5% crit chance for the fight, and this deals double crit damage. I'm gonna be honest, I think if this just had 100% crit chance, I wouldn't call it overpowered. The fact that you need to build a board to scale its crit chance up when it is a base 10 damage, 7-second use time, like this just isn't it. This thing just seems incredibly weak. I don't think it's like shot glass filler garbage that you would never run. I think there are boards where you can put this in, but I do not think in any capacity that Calico is a good card. Next up, let's start getting into the packages. There are 2 different packages that really come with this set, and all the stronger cards are part of these packages. That's why I kind of think the new Vanessa set's not that strong, is because it feels very heavily interlocked on like every strong thing except Sea Shadow. Feels like you're supposed to run multiple specific cards from this set, and that's kind of why I'm not super hype on the Vanessa set. First up, we have Piano. It's entirely passive. It's a medium tool. When you use a friend, haste it for 1 second. Adjacent items are friends. So just immediately, this fulfills a similar purpose to a Shadowed Cloak or a Sextant. Obviously, it doesn't come with the crit chance or the damage scaling, but if nothing else, this is an okay item just to throw onto a board with a weapon. Additionally, if you put this on a board with like, pearls and a pufferfish, this can be kind of crazy, right? This is a lot of haste triggers for a pufferfish. I think of all the cards remaining in the set, Piano is probably one of the best ones. It feels like it enables a lot of different things. Haste is just very mechanically powerful, so getting a good, easy source of haste that also has a bunch of synergy effects seems very valuable. Speaking of those synergy effects, let's talk about the next item, the card table. Medium, no tags, 4-second cast time. A friend gains 1 multicast for the fight, and then increase this item's cooldown for 4 seconds. Or sorry, by 4 seconds for the fight. So 4 seconds might be before a lot of items. If you're all in on one weapon, maybe your one weapon goes faster than this. But just imagine that you're using like a Langjin with the Piano and the card table so that you can give multicast to the Langjin as it's now your only friend, so it's not going to target anything else. And sure, this scales up more over the course of the fight, but I think the idea behind card table is just to multicast the hell out of one specific item. Now, I'm not convinced that like card table plus Piano is going to be crazy broken or anything. And the reason I'm not wholly convinced of that is because it is 4 item slots, right? Giving one item an extra multicast can be absolutely crazy. But remember, that Langjin that you're giving the multicast to is losing an adjacency. It's losing 4 slots of stuff on the board that was almost certainly scaling it previously, right? Like, it's easy to say, oh my god, 100% more Langjin. But when you're forced to take off, say, a Spyglass or a Sextant, right, for the crit chance, to make room for the adjacency, you're forced to cut something else from your board to make room for the card table. It's not 100% more, it's somewhere between 0 and 99%, because you're having to give up a lot of the other shit on your board. 4 item slots is just a huge commitment. I think these are good, don't get me wrong, but I do not think they're going to be overpowered. I think the fact that they kind of rely on each other is important. That said, where it's really strong is that Piano does function on its own just to enable anything with a pufferfish, or to give haste to anything outside of a pufferfish build. Same thing with card table. If you have any important friend on your board, then card table gets a lot better. These items are good because they don't require each other, and potentially great because they can combo with each other, but I think the just 4 cost of item slots on your board makes them not broken. Next up we have Orange Julian, which doesn't have a ton of synergy with the rest of the stuff we're talking about, but it does combo very specifically with card table quite well. Orange Julian's a medium friend, 11 seconds is an eternity, and your weapons gain 10 damage for the fight. When you gain gold, increase the damage bonus of this item by the amount gained, and it's very important that this is a bronze card, meaning you can get it very, very early in the game. If you pick up an Orange Julian early, I'd be unsurprised to see it breaking 200 value by the end of the fight, which is an outrageous amount. Of course, it takes a while to go off, and that is a problem. However, card table can give it multicast, and once it has multicast, the other 6 weapons on your board sound horrifying. The issue is entirely the cast time. Will you actually live 11 seconds? Considering we're talking about a weapon spam build that gave up 4 item slots for scaling, probably not, right? Orange Julian's really, really hype. I look at it, I see the dream, and then I see the 11-second cast time. And I assume the way this thing scales with level is it gets faster as you level up. I'm going to assume by like 1 second a tier, which would get it down to 7 seconds at Diamond, which is still just very, very slow. And as Vanessa, you don't have Phonograph, you don't have Fort, Silencer doesn't work on this guy because he's not a weapon. I want to believe so badly, but I do not think Orange Julian works. I think he's just too damn slow, and I'm not really sure what he works well with. Maybe you could afford 2 slots for a friend in like a Crow's Nest flagship sort of build, where this is a crazy damage scaler and you're trusting the ship to keep you alive until this goes off and then you win. That might be cool. Like, the raw power of what it offers is so ridiculously high that I'm inclined to believe Orange Julian can do something, but the cast time is a major weakness to the card. Next up, we have the 3 interlocked items that make up what I feel are the core of this set's identity. The Sea Dog Saloon is a large aquatic property, takes 6 seconds to go off, it hastes an item for 2 seconds, slows an item for 2 seconds, and has +1 multicast for each friend you have. Which means that if your board is nothing but friends, this just hastes your entire board, right? However big they are, however many you have, it has multicast just enough to cover each of them. It's also going to slow your opponent into the ground if you have a lot of friends. Both of those are very important. Now, the issue for Sea Dog Saloon largely comes down to the fact that Vanessa usually doesn't have that many friends. If she does, we're probably specifically talking about a pufferfish build. There aren't really very many friend spam builds. So Sea Dog Saloon does have a home in the previous sets thanks to pufferfish, but it's pretty narrow in scope until we talk about the next 2 cards that really breathe a lot of life into this card and make it possible to send it to the moon. First up, we have Mr. Richardson. This is a much better shield scaling card than Shot Glasses. It is a 10 shield small friend with a 6-second use time. When you haste or slow, this gains 5 shield for the fight. So every single friend you have, that's an additional resolution on the Sea Dog Saloon, and that's +10 more shield value on Mr. Richardson. So provided you're living 6 seconds for Sea Dog Saloon to go off, you haste your whole board, you slow your opponent's whole board, Mr. Richardson's going to do his best to keep you alive. I feel like that's a pretty strong core. It needs a clear win rate. It's kind of a strange thing for a pufferfish build, but maybe Puffer goes in. And then we have our last card, Old Saltclaw, that rounds out the archetype for 5 of 10 board slots. He's a small aquatic friend weapon, hits for 10 at silver, 6-second cast time, deals 10 damage, and when you haste or slow, this gains 5 damage for the fights. So the finisher for the build could easily be Old Saltclaw. Now, you don't need to be playing Pufferfish specifically, although Pufferfish is probably perfectly fine. You probably want one or the other, not both. Both seems like it's not necessarily wrong, but generally if you go Poison, you want to ignore shields. You don't want to go like Poison plus Burn or Poison plus Damage. But the combo of these 3 items, Old Saltclaw, Mr. Richardson, and Sea Dog Saloon, makes up the core of a very interesting new board that seems like the core identity of this new set, and the rest of the cards are all friends because they can then interact with the Sea Dog Saloon. My issue with the set as a whole is it all feels kind of Disneyland to me. It all feels heavily interlocked, like too many things have to go right. The Sea Dog Saloon really desperately wants Richardson and Saltclaw or Pufferfish Rit to be good. Orange Julian needs like some crazy defensive scaling to keep you alive, so that then you can scale your weapon so that it actually does anything after 11 seconds. Card Table and Piano are probably 2 of the better items, and they combo together very well. Calico and Shot Glasses are just straight filler. Captain's Quarters is probably good, but not insane. And largely how good this set comes down to is going to be a question of how good is Sea Shadow really? How good are Card Table and Piano when they're not comboed together? And how reliably can you find Sea Dog Saloon plus a great big pile of friends, including friends like Saltclaw, Richardson, and Pufferfish, so that you actually have a win condition and not just a pile of haste and slow? Personally, I think this set's kinda weak. I thought Mysteries of the Deep really effectively rounded out Vanessa's card pool, And even though it might not have made her clearly stronger, it made her more flexible and the game played a bit smoother. I don't look at this and see powerhouse cards like I did with Depth Charge and Dive Weights. I don't see cards that are good and generically useful like Submersible where it just fits in as the one weapon. This all feels really heavily interlocked in a way that is kind of antithetical to how the Bazaar is designed to be played. It feels Disneyland, it feels optimistic. Maybe I'm overestimating how weak they are, maybe stuff like Sea Shadow, Piano, and Card Table are just independently good enough, but I'm inclined to think that your boards are going to be weaker with this set. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm going to play with it. New cards are hype, and I'm interested in trying it out after I spend like a week grinding Mac, I guess. But to me, I don't really see the dream here. I don't see the card where it's like, oh, this is going to win the game. This is the win condition. I don't see the hole in an old archetype that is filled. There's no Slumbering Primordial. There's no Dive Weights. There's just a bunch of cards that are better if you find other cards from this set. And yeah, that doesn't feel great to me. I think this is kind of on the weak side. And I'm hoping monetization changes. Right now, if the monetization system doesn't change, I'm pretty confident that this is pay to lose. Ideally, monetization changes, free players get access to this, and you aren't even allowed to turn it off and everyone has to play with them all the time. However, if that's not the case, with the current system, this is pay to lose. They're interesting cards, I just think they rely too much on having too many specific synergies, and then those synergies aren't broadly applicable and easy to find, it's like really specific cards. Captain's Quarters with Flagship or Crane is a great example of this, right? So I think it's on the weak side. I think the cards are interesting, except for Shot Glasses, hate that. But I don't think they're strong. That's my final opinion. Anyways, that'll be all for now. Thank you for your time. If you made it this far, then please do me a huge favor and do the YouTube algorithm dance, like, comment, subscribe. It really does help. I really do appreciate it. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.